7 men's stories, exciting entertainment.
Charlemagne's darkest day, 4,500 dead. Imagine this. Thousands of men kneeling on the riverbank, hands bound, heads down, silence, and then Widukind and the sound of steel cutting the air. Over and over again, it's not a battle, it's not a trial, it's an order. In the year 782, Charlemagne, the man later celebrated as the father of Europe, commanded the execution of 4,500 Saxon prisoners in a single day. Why? What drove him to such brutality? And why does history so often forget this moment? 8th century Europe was a continent in pieces. After the fall of Rome, chaos reigned. Tribal kingdoms, fractured languages, scattered faiths. Power belonged to whoever could hold it. With a sword. In this chaos, a young Frankish king rose, his name Charles, later known as Charlemagne. He had a vision, one empire, one law, one god. He wasn't just a warlord. He loved books, spoke Latin, and encouraged education. But he also believed unity came at a cost he was willing to enforce. And the people who would test his resolve more than any other were the Saxons. The Saxons were not a kingdom. They were a loose federation of tribes in what is now northern Germany, fiercely independent, deeply rooted in their own traditions. They didn't believe in the Christian God. They had their own, Woden, Donar, spirits of the forest. To them, the Franks were invaders and missionaries, trespassers. Charlemagne launched campaign after campaign to bring them under his rule. In 772, he struck their sacred symbol, the Irminsul, a towering wooden pillar that connected them to the divine. He destroyed it. For the Saxons, this wasn't war, it was spiritual annihilation. They fought back, not in open battle, but in ambushes, raids, and resistance. And soon, a leader emerged from the shadows. Widukind. Widukind wasn't a king, he was a symbol, a ghost, a guerrilla fighter who refused to kneel. He struck where the Franks were weak, burning their churches, ambushing their soldiers, vanishing into the woods. Charlemagne grew frustrated, furious. With every campaign, the war dragged on. He ordered forced baptisms, took hostages, razed entire villages to the ground. Still, the Saxons refused to break. But by 782, something shifted. Widukind disappeared. Thousands of Saxons surrendered. They laid down their arms. They believed the worst was over. But they were wrong. Verden, autumn, the year 782. Charlemagne gathered 4,500 Saxon prisoners, warriors who had surrendered, who had trusted his word, and then he gave the order. All were to be executed, no trial, no defense, no mercy. It was swift, methodical, a message to every tribe watching. This is what happens when you resist me. The chronicles describe it in dry lines, and a mere entry in a royal record. But for those who stood there, it was a riverbank of silence, broken by steel. And when it was done, Europe would never be the same. Historians still argue about Charlemagne's motives. Some say he acted out of rage, that just days earlier his troops had been ambushed by Saxons and slaughtered. This was revenge. Others believe it was cold strategy, a calculated terror tactic to crush resistance once and for all. Whatever the reason, it worked. Widukind fled. The rebellion began to fade, and years later, Widukind returned, not as a warrior, but as a Christian convert, baptized, silent, defeated. Charlemagne would go on to become emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. He'd reform education, build cathedrals, preserve classical knowledge. He became a legend, the man who shaped medieval Europe. But that legacy was built on fire and on the silence of the 4,500 men who never walked away from Verden. So now the question is yours. Was Charlemagne a visionary, a unifier, or a tyrant with a crown? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you want to uncover more forgotten stories from the shadows of history, hit subscribe. And keep watching 7 Min Stories.
Feel free to follow this channel to avoid missing any new content. Disclaimer: the images are AI generated and are for illustration purposes. The stories on this channel are researched to the best of our knowledge.